welcome everyone. Welcome. I can see there's a full house real quick. Welcome, Alex. We're very, very happy to have you. As usual, it's always an amazing time each time you join our spaces. Uh,
Thank you.
we also have Gus here. Uh, Let me start the introductions with Alex. Alex is Beam CTO. He is the brain and the hands behind the amazing products that Beam has built so far. He's the technical lead for Beam blockchain, and he'll be sharing more information on what he has been building and how far the project has come. And I think behind the Beam privacy account is Gus. Gus is the community lead, and he's been playing host as well to all the past and present Beam privacy podcasts. Hi, Gus. You there?
Hey guys.
Hey, happy to have you here. And once again, welcome everyone. We'll be kicking off with a few questions from the team to Alex, and then we'll take questions from the listeners. So, first of all, would like an introduction to what Beam is all about. I'm pretty sure there are new joiners, people who are just hearing about Beam for the first time, or they've not been long in the privacy space and they would like to understand what Beam blockchain projects is all about. So can you give us like an overview, a brief overview of what Beam is all about, Alex?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thank you very much. Beam started, by the way, about like 5 years ago. Like the development started. So last month we celebrated 5 years of Beam development. So it was very emotional date. Everybody kind of shared pictures from the old times and all kinds of fun facts. But it was nice. Um, Beam started as an idea to create a better confidential cryptocurrency. Back in the day, there was projects like Monero and Zcash. Today we have obviously both of them and a lot more. But back then it was really a niche area of having a confidential or private cryptocurrency where no one could know what you are sending, what you are paying, what you are holding. And that was the idea. The idea was very simple, just create a better project because like there were already a lot of kind of difficulties in terms of like the blockchain size was very big for the other projects and the technology was not good enough, the price was not good enough, usability was sometimes difficult. So that was the original idea. And that's what we started doing. And in relatively short time, about 9.5 months, on January 3rd, 2019, we have launched our mainnet. And the Beam is a platform. So it's a layer one blockchain. It's mineable on GPUs. It started from zero. It's not a fork of another project or a clone. It was created from scratch. And we have a very similar emission schedule to Bitcoin, like periodic halving every 4 years, capped emissions. So the fundamentals were very similar to what Bitcoin was doing. And actually, the January 3rd was a 10-year anniversary of Bitcoin Genesis block. So it also was a symbolic date for us to launch. But since then, over the last 4 years of Beam blockchain running, we have added a lot of additional features and improvements that actually today makes Beam more of a platform that you can use not just to send funds from one user to another, but also to create applications, decentralized applications. And we transformed it in a way to a programmable blockchain like Ethereum. And actually any contract that you could implement today on Ethereum, you could also implement on Beam, but using a different technology, and still all of your information would be private, like your identity would never be revealed. And basically we try to preserve the privacy element as much as possible. Now, the topic of privacy that will like repeat itself a lot during this space also, but recently it was also always very important, but recently has become even more, um, I would say, prominent and mentioned a lot. Just today, I read in the news that, for example, in Italy they banned ChatGPT, if you know this new artificial intelligence kind
Yeah.
of software. So they have not exactly banned it, but they have restricted it on the basis that it infringes the privacy of users. And obviously, everything that is happening in the world, like in the last, I don't know, couple of years, we see how privacy becomes more important, both in the financial domain and also in every other, like social media and whatever. Like, so the privacy is becoming more and more of a important topic to learn, to know, to discuss, and to understand, right? So that's what Beam does today. Beam is trying to provide privacy on all levels and all features that exist in the blockchain world, whether it's transactions, smart contracts, applications, etc. So that's what Beam is.
Awesome. Awesome. I think this is it's a very unique tech, and we're still early. There's a lot of adoption left to be gotten. So, just a quick one. Let me check on the hosts. Are you able to speak now, Prosper?
Hello, is my audio better now?
Yes,
Yeah,
much
yeah.
better.
All right,
Cool.
all right,
So I'm just going to take the second question and then pass it on to you.
all right, sure.
Okay. Cool, cool. So, Alex, how has the first quarter of the year been like for Beam? There's been a lot of updates and feature release, but according to you, in your own point of view, how has it been for Beam in general, the first quarter of the year?
Yeah, so the first quarter of this year was, I would say, it had some very good developments. It had some also, I would say, not very good events. But let's start from the good ones. So around the end of previous year, we had a lot of announcements and applications that we said that we're going to launch. And these applications included, first of all, decentralized exchange, something that will allow people to trade all kinds of confidential assets on Beam blockchain using a similar mechanism like Uniswap and SushiSwap and other exchanges that you are familiar with on Ethereum. Another project that also was announced back then and is also about to launch soon is called Nifrit, and it's a algorithmic stablecoin that works very similar to MakerDAO DAI or Liquidity. So it's collateralized by other assets, and a lot more kind of applications that we have announced last year were supposed to be coming out in the beginning of this year. So this is actually what is happening. There were several delays for several reasons, mostly technical ones, but the coming month of April is when it's all coming together and all of these releases are starting to happen one by one. Another very important transition that we made is, as you know, Beam is currently moving from basically Beam Foundation governance to a DAO. So we have created a few applications to support this. One of them is the voting application that was created a long time ago, but was not used. But now it's finally was activated. So we had several votes on chain using our confidential voting app. By the way, turns out that being anonymous in the DAO vote is also important because just recently some judge in the United States he said that like participants in the DAO can also be held responsible. So there is a lot of kind of assault, as you know, right now on crypto in general, on DAOs, and you never know when and where it's going to come up. So it's very nice to have anonymity on your side. And during the first quarter of this year, we have been trying to put all of these developments together. test them properly, discuss them with the community, vote on them where needed, and basically get them ready to be released. The wallets that we have been developing also were improved significantly. Like several things that I would like to mention is, first of all, finally, after a long period of trying, we were able to add support for the hardware wallet, the Ledger Nano S and Nano S Plus specifically. And this means that you can now initialize your Beam wallet with the Ledger device and have better security on this front. We have added a small application which allows you to send messages between Beam wallets, kind of a small messenger app, which is also very nice. It will be improved significantly in the future. It's just the first version, but it's already looking interesting. By the way, if you ever wanted to take a look at the latest features of Beam, which are not yet released to production, you can always download our DAppNet version. It's a specific, special blockchain that was created just for testing and playing with new features. It's available from our website. So you can download this application and just see all the latest applications, features, and new things that we have just added and they're not available on mainnet yet. And if you're doing this, you're obviously welcome to provide your opinions, your comments, remarks, any issues that you might encounter or find. We're always welcome feedback in any shape or form, either on our Telegram community or in Twitter or on Discord, anywhere you are. So it really helps the project to be better if you provide feedback and send us issues that you had. So that's kind of what was happening in the development front, right? We were working a lot on finalizing the things that kind of remained from last year, and now we see them all coming together and getting ready to be released. One thing that happened, which was not so good, was the Beam was delisted from Binance, as you know. It was very surprising for us because we communicated with them. We had ongoing conversations. They were actually asking about the hardware wallet as well. And then we got this news from Twitter that we were delisted. It was not like it was bad news for two reasons. First of all, obviously it caused Beam price to drop sharply. And also we lost a very active marketplace with a lot of liquidity. So we had absolutely no influence or nothing we could do about it. And we don't know the exact reason. Like they published the standard list of reasons why a project could theoretically be delisted, but there was nothing specific that was communicated to us. So yeah, that's kind of the beginning of the year. Obviously, like in general around the industry, you see that there is a lot of things happening every day. Like one thing I would like to mention in a way, I think there is a very good direction in general. All of these attacks on crypto, all of these situations, for example, when there was this news about the bankruptcy of the Silicon Valley Bank, you probably heard about it. And what happened is that USDC suddenly lost its peg because it turned out that like 3 billion of USDC dollars were actually stored at that bank. And before, everybody was relieved to learn that all of this money will be backed by the government and they will not be lost. And then the USDC came back to $1. But even more interestingly, after USDC lost its peg, which is very logical because if you cannot access all of the collateral that backs the USDC, obviously it cannot be worth the same amount. But also DAI, which is a algorithmic and collateralized stablecoin, also lost its peg. And that was because at some point they wanted to add liquidity. So most, 50%, I would say, of the DAI out there right now are actually backed by USDC, which is a centralized stablecoin. So all of these situations that happened and all of the attacks, from United States government and some other governments around the world, whether it's on staking or what is the security or in general on organizations that are dealing with crypto, they all show one thing, that the more decentralized the project actually is, the more privacy the project has. Like it's actually like better long term, right? Because like where do you go when you want to sell USDC or USDT or any other stable coin? You buy Bitcoin, and that's why we see the Bitcoin is still very strong because it is decentralized and it's it's a completely different animal from any other project that is actually like centralized or controlled by some entity. So I think this is very good news in the long term.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. So moving on, still on the subject of releases and features, um, there has been a lot of updates in the first quarter, talking about the bridge, the hardware wallets, the messenger.
Yeah.
How far has Beam come in achieving all of this, especially the fact that it's there's a lot to be expected of the team in the first quarter. I mean, first quarter just ended, right? So, how far has been come in achieving all of the uh, roadmap promises?
Yeah. So as I said, like most of the first quarter was actually dedicated to organizing and finalizing all of these features. Um, decentralized, like the decentralized exchange, I think, is one of the most kind of expected, together with the free stablecoin, the, are the most anticipated dApps right now. And uh, what is going to happen with those is that, first of all, we need to release the updated version of the desktop wallet. I will explain in a second why. And then for the DEX, we have this special program that we have defined, which is called liquidity accumulation program. And it is related to the Beam and BMAX pair. So BMAX, for those who don't know, is a governance token of the Beam DAO, BMAX DAO. And it is used, first of all, in voting for various decisions on Beam platform. But going forward, it is going to be the main governance token for the entire Beam ecosystem. And all of the applications that I have mentioned, whether it's a DEX or Nifrit or any other that is developed by Beam or is collaborating actively with the BMAX DAO, all of these applications are tied into BMAX ecosystem, which means that you can receive BMAX as a liquidity farming reward when you lock liquidity into either of those applications. And that's like we're kind of making this transition to the DAO kind of more cemented, more focused. And that was like one of the goals of all of these applications coming together is to create this understanding of how this ecosystem works in general and uses BMAX token for its governance, right? So that's kind of the big picture. We have also released bridges with Ethereum, which are centralized as of now, and they can help with bringing liquidity into Beam ecosystem. But also, we're currently working on what we call a reverse bridge, which is basically the ability to take Beam and BMAX and to transfer them to Ethereum as ERC20 tokens and then trade them in Ethereum ecosystem like Uniswap or any other decentralized exchanges on Ethereum. And even though you're obviously going to lose your privacy once you move to Ethereum, the idea is that it still can be beneficial for the ecosystem in general to have kind of more trading and more liquidity on Ethereum, where obviously there are many more users and much more liquidity available. So all of these things are kind of being consolidated now, tested, and getting to be released. So I think that in the coming weeks, maybe up to a month, like all of these will be out. Now, once we complete this stage, I think the most important next goal is what we usually call marketing in our community discussions, which is basically attracting new users, attracting new liquidity, telling more people about Beam, because until like now, even though there were like Beam is very, I would say, a relatively old project already, after 5 years of development and a little over 4 years of mainnet running, still, like many people don't know about Beam. And I think today Beam provides a great value for anyone who is looking for a blockchain with both kind of programmability, right, in the form of smart contracts and privacy. I think we can provide a lot of interesting opportunities.
Cool, cool. Thank you very much for that response. So we've got a couple of questions coming in from the community. I would take them one at a time. But before that, uh, we can take one from the team. So, what use cases exist for the Beam blockchain, and what industries or applications do you see adopting it?
Yeah, so actually there are a lot of interesting use cases that Beam can be kind of either used directly or integrated with other applications and to provide this solution. So first of all, let's start with, for example, something simple such as DAO governance, right? The DAO voting, for example. As you know, there are currently several different types of kind of DAO mechanisms implemented. Some of them are just plain, like Web2, simple websites that you just register with your email and you provide your vote. And there are some kind of more advanced implementations that use smart contracts. But in either case, if it's in a smart contract on Ethereum, anyone can see how you vote, what exactly are your tokens, like the voting power that you possess, and this like is definitely not always a good idea. Like sometimes it influences the decisions that are made, and we see those examples happening like quite often, right? So we see that sometimes it's like quite clear that like one large organization holds like a lot of tokens, can like block votes, or like it's the transparency of this voting process is like not always a good thing. Like you can always make the vote public if you want to, but the fact that it's public all the time by default, like that's not like a good idea, as we know from the regular life. Like when you vote, it's not a good idea for somebody to be standing over your shoulder and like looking how you vote. So this is, for example, a great area where Beam can easily provide an amazing solution. So even if you don't use like Beam, or you're basically trying to create voting for another project, if you create it on top of Beam, you will have instant privacy for all of your like participants, which is very nice. And the fact that Beam has very low fees today, and also the fact that you can create smart contracts on Beam which can subsidize fees, which is something, by the way, not available on Ethereum. Like in Beam, you can create smart contracts that can pay your fees for you. So when you're using it, you don't even need to own Beam necessarily. You just need for the operator of the contract to provide this option. This is how the Beam faucet works. For example, like in Beam faucet, you get some small amount of Beam to start playing with it, and you don't need to have any Beam to create and send this transaction. It's a very like nice feature to have. So this is like one possible area, right? Confidential on-chain voting. Another is obviously DeFi. So when we talk about DeFi, we talk about like several families of applications. We talk about the stable coins, we talk about decentralized exchanges, lending platforms, right, and such. And once again, like if you are a serious DeFi trader, right, like you really do this, for profit, the last thing you want to do is to just, disclose information about what you're holding, what you're doing, what you're buying at any given point in time to your competitors, or, just general people who just looking and see what you're doing. And that is currently the situation on Ethereum. And you're probably familiar with the term MEV, minor extractable value, or maximal extractable value, right? So basically what happens is that there is an entire, I would say, economy of people who just trying to catch transactions that they can front run or back run and then extract profit from either the person who sends that transaction or the pool that is like operating on that transaction. So instead of the trader getting the maximum profit from his decisions, what happens is that the organizations that operate MEV bots extract maximum profit, and then they share this profit with the Ethereum validators. So, they let their package of transactions in instead of somebody else's. And like, if you're not familiar with this topic, like, do Google it and research it because it's very interesting, it's exciting, and it's also very concerning because you say, wait a minute. So when I'm doing my trades on Ethereum, like I'm really not very vulnerable to just somebody taking my transaction and then doing something around it, and I have no control over it. And then instead of getting profit myself, somebody else gets my profit, or worse, like leaves me, really at a loss. So this is something that problematic. Like it really hinders, and the trading, it does not allow for a level playing field for everyone because somebody has an advantage. Now, just today, I think earlier today, I heard in the news that several big providers of DeFi solutions on Ethereum, I think it was 1inch and a few others, they're consolidating to create a solution that will allow their users to avoid these MEV like issues. And what they're doing is they're basically creating this centralized point where you send your transactions, and then they have a validator that will kind of try to avoid letting other MEV bots in or something like that. So obviously it's not ideal because like once you create the solution, you increase the centralization, and yes, you might avoid the MEV, but once again, there is no privacy, so we don't lose privacy, but the centralization suffers, right? This decentralization suffers. Now, when you do not know the identity of somebody who is sending the transaction, there are still MEV opportunities, but at least they're not kind of limited to whale hunting. Like you don't hunt specific people because they're holding a lot of this token or that token. And it actually improves the situation with MEV, which is a big problem as well. Right. So for example, in Beam, yes, you can still see what happens inside the contract, but you don't know who this is. So you can send several transactions, you can split your trades, and then avoid kind of detection and the same problems that we have right now in Ethereum. Another very interesting feature, and that's why I mentioned that we're going to release a new version of the desktop wallet that will support it fully. It's called high-frequency transactions. And what it actually does is basically taking this idea of a mempool. What is a mempool is just the transactions that were sent to the network, but were not yet added to a specific block, right? So they're just waiting to be added to a block. In most blockchains, the mempool is just a long list of transactions, and the validator or the miner just selects some of them, usually from the top of the list, and tries to optimize the fees, right? So the higher fees transactions go in before the lower fees ones. The problem with this approach is that, once again, it makes the MEV really easy. It makes possible like all kinds of transaction reservations, etc. But it also requires like for the entire block to be mined before you can react to what really happened. As an example, you can see this whenever you're trading on Uniswap, for example, you always have to be very careful about the slippage tolerance that you send, because let's say you want to trade some tokens, for another tokens at a certain price, but when you send your transaction, somebody can do before you the same trade, and then the price will change. And then you actually will not get the price that you wanted, you will get a different price. So if this price is significantly different and your slippage tolerance was not set correctly, you might actually lose money on this trade. So this is a very important point, and anyone who trades on DEXs knows it. Now, the high-frequency transaction, instead of treating the mempool as just a list of transactions, it actually treats it as a tree. So what you can say is that, listen, I want my transaction to be put in the pool behind this specific transaction, which should be before me. And this means that one of two things happen. Either all of these transactions go into the blockchain exactly in the order that you knew about and intended, or this entire branch of the tree will be thrown away because there is another branch which is more profitable for the miner. And then at least you will not, you will not be front run. You can still be background, but the front running is impossible because when you send a transaction, you condition it on the transaction before it. Now, obviously, it's also kind of a problem because, okay, so I sent the transaction, but it didn't go in. But since it all happens in the real time using our kind of transaction broadcasting protocol, you get this information even before the block is mined. So you can actually change your decision in real time. And obviously, you're not going to do this as a user. The program, the smart contract, does it for you. The application that runs inside your wallet can make a decision. So, for example, you can say, listen, I want to perform these transactions under these conditions. So it can start with kind of best possible option for you, see if it goes in. If it doesn't, for some reason, then adjust those options within the parameters that you have set. And all of this together actually creates a very interesting mechanism. So you are, first of all, completely avoiding any front running, because you always know exactly the order in which your transaction will be positioned in the block. And also, if for some reason it's not possible to perform your transaction under the condition that you have set, at least you will not lose money or you will not be tricked into anything that you didn't want to happen. So this is the high frequency transaction protocol. We called it high frequency because you can make decisions before the block is mined, right? In Beam, as you know, the blocks are relatively slow, 1 block per minute on average. And on Ethereum, it's 15 seconds per block. So it's much faster. But using this high frequency mechanism, you can create your transactions and make decisions even before the block is mined. So it makes it much more optimal for most DeFi applications.
Awesome, awesome. So
Yeah.
we'd have to move really quick from here because we've got very interesting questions from the community, and I
Sure.
still have a couple more for you and Gus here as well. So I'm going to take one quick one from the community, still on developments, right? The Beam Messenger. Someone asked if, when it would be available on mobile.
Yeah. So, okay. So first of all, what will probably happen is two things. Regarding the messenger, right now it's in the very, very early version and it's on our DAppNet wallet. So if you can, please download the DAppNet wallet, play with it and provide your feedback. It's very basic. So what we're going to do, we will probably release version 2, which will be updated using all of the inputs and all of the improvements that we already know that we want to make. And only after that, we will add it to the mobile wallet. And the reason for that is we don't want to do the development twice. Right now, with in general, it's a good idea to first understand what you want to build on one platform and then port it to others, instead of making and remaking the same feature twice. So right now, that's probably what's going to happen with this feature. However, in general, we are putting effort right now on the mobile wallet. It's been stagnant for a while. It's not a secret. All of the community members who are here know about it. But we are upgrading it, first of all, to the latest libraries, so it will be compatible with the latest features. And then we are going to bring it to a par with the desktop wallet, at least in terms of the critical applications. So we really want all of the essential dApps, which include the voting, obviously, the DEX, the Nifrit, and the others, to be available on the mobile wallet. So that's our focus right now. And then once we have a relatively stable messenger that everybody is mostly satisfied with, then we will also add it to the mobile.
Awesome, awesome. I hope the person who asked the question is listening, and if he's not, he can always listen to the recording. And I would also like to inform our listeners that this space is recorded and it will be available on the across our podcast channels and YouTube as well. Moving on to the next question. Cool. We have one. Can you speak to any recent partnerships or collaborations that Beam has formed or is currently pursuing? I am aware of a recent tweet about a grant. Maybe you can throw more light on uh, those kind of things.
Um, yeah, so I will kind of mention few directions that we're currently taking. There's like not too much very, high profile news on this front as of now. Um, but there are some directions that we are taking, and we hope that, sometime we will be able to tell kind of more specific details about that. So first of all, in terms of collaborations, we are currently actively seeking projects that want either to use Beam as an alternative to their previous blockchain or host, right? In terms of, for example, Solana, as we know, they had a lot of projects, and Solana like had a lot of issues due to the FTX situation in terms of like financing. Many projects there like were like severely hindered. So, but we do welcome projects from other chains that want to switch to a kind of more, I would say, lower profile but higher availability and reliability chain. Uh, and we are actually talking with a few projects like that, and we always try to provide as much help as possible in terms of the migration or implementation of the contracts on Beam, because as of now, the Beam technology is rather difficult to kind of figure out, and it's not simple to start developing contracts on Beam right now. So we do offer as much help as we can in this domain. The other category of partnerships is more about privacy. So recently we spoke with some organization that is actually trying to build a voting application, and they do need privacy because they deal with, people who live abroad from their country of origin, and the country of origin is not very, I would say, um, welcoming to them, and kind of the, the situations that I described, and they want to provide the members of their community with anonymity, and that's where we really shine because we can really easily provide those solutions. So any project that is interested in privacy of any kind, I think we can cooperate and help. Another direction that we are also trying to pursue is integration of Beam as a part of a different solution, since Beam has very developed APIs that allow you to basically integrate it as a payment service or as a DApp service, just like it, we integrate it with exchanges and other payment service providers. So that's kind of another direction, right? Integrating Beam as part of a different solution. Yeah, so once
Amazing.
again, like I don't have any specific names, but these are the key directions that we're trying to take.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a great direction. It's really great. Yeah. So probably the person who asked will be expecting names, but I think this is a lot of information, and it at least shows that the team is working towards something big, right?
Yeah.
So yeah. So I think I'll be directing this question to Gus. Someone asked if we can get the main Twitter account verified. And a follow up question, if we can make the Twitter accounts more active.
Hey, apologies for being so quiet. So two questions. I was just the first one as to the verification on the main Twitter account. As far as I understand, this is like slowly being rolled out to different regions. and we have made we've made the payment to get it verified and this kind of stuff. So it's only a matter of them processing that payment and verifying it and this kind of thing. With the regards to the second question on making the Beam Twitter more active, very valid question, and we are working on this currently as of the beginning of next week. So a few days from now, we should be pumping out a lot more tweets, giving more information about like the upcoming releases, what Beam is, all this kind of stuff from the main Twitter account. And also in the background, we're going to be, I don't know if, I think Alex mentioned it, not last space, but the space before, we're going to be setting up some marketing kind of task force in order to ramp up the marketing for Beam in general. So in addition to making the Twitter account more active.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks very much, Gus. And great job so far. We've been enjoying the spaces. It's been a very engaging and enlightening section so far, right? So great job. I think we'll be drawing near to the end of the space. Uh, if you are still on the call and have questions, feel free to drop them in the Telegram channel, Beam Africa or Beam Private Telegram, or indicates here, and you'll be allowed to speak, whichever way works. So, Alex, back to you. What are your thoughts on the future of blockchain tech and its potential to various industries?
Yes, so let's start with the most obvious kind of the cryptocurrencies, right? So it's one of the, I think, the first and the most popular application of blockchain technology so far. And I think what is happening right now is, I would say, it's amazing and exciting, like not always in a good way, because we also see like a lot of strange things happening. But I think it's absolutely unbelievable the fact that you know not only okay, just starting like when we started in 2008, the question was whether there will be Bitcoin or not, right? The Bitcoin was kind of the question. And then there was like, okay, Bitcoin is going to be whatever, no matter what. Is Ethereum going to be there, right? And now, only 5 years later, it's like nobody's doubting Bitcoin anymore or Ethereum anymore, right? Both of these projects kind of cemented their place. And now, like the entire governments and all kinds of regulators are talking about this. And yeah, it didn't even reach like mass adoption yet. Like, I don't know, my mother would never be able to use Bitcoin still, right? But even though it's not like ubiquitous in terms of like everybody's using it, it creates a lot of discussions on so many different levels, and not a small discussions, right? It's not like, oh, like should we make this small law or that small law? The entire kind of industries are changing, and what is happening is actually an exploration of the meaning of money, decentralization. We see like all of these kind of new phenomena that is coming like around decentralized autonomous organizations, decentralized governance in general, how all of these things should work, right? Is a miner different from a validator? Yes, no, why not? And all of these discussions actually happen like all around the world. It's not a local process for some country. So yeah, like I think the impact of cryptocurrencies, is obvious and could not be kind of underestimated in any way. And I also think that what we see through this kind of process, or the processes that we see, is the fact that I already mentioned, that the idea of decentralization is a key one, right? So decentralization as it should be, right? Not like, oh, we have 3 validators, so we're decentralized, right? But the basic values and ideas that Bitcoin brought from its origin, from the beginning, are still very valid today. And when there was a bull market, everybody was kind of making a lot of money. But when the situation got changed, and now we're in the bear market, and a lot of projects and the kind of big institutions turned out to be, let's say, either much less decentralized that they should have been, or fraudulent, or just dishonest with their customers, and the projects that were always kind of following those basic values of decentralization, they're still here. They very much survived it, and it's not just Bitcoin. Like, quite a few more projects were actually very strongly supported by all of these changes on like all of these otherwise kind of negative things that happened around them. So yeah, like going forward, I think that this direction of creating truly decentralized cryptocurrency projects with privacy and with all of the like essential features that people need on a daily basis to conduct their payments or transactions or whatever, those are the projects that will prevail, that will be really needed. And we really hope to make Beam one of those. So that's kind of the cryptocurrency part of it. I think the blockchain technology as a technology did not get, I would say, too much adoption in most other areas yet. Back in the day, there were some ideas of using it in all kinds of like enterprise applications. I don't like. Once again, I'm not following this topic closely, so maybe I'm not aware, but I didn't hear about too much success in these areas. I do think that one of the essential areas that blockchain will help a lot with is decentralized identity. It's not my topic, but I do follow someone who is very deeply involved in decentralized identity in general, like, and specific projects around it. Because eventually decentralized identity is a much better, I would say, way to manage and control how you present yourself, how you are presented, how you manage your kind of information about yourself in general. So it's a very interesting topic. I suggest to research and follow if you have the time. Yeah, that's kind of I would say in a few sentences most of it.
All right. I don't know if we have any questions from the listeners. Okay, so I'm going to take one more question that was shared by a community member. This person asked, for a newbie who is just entering the world of crypto, privacy, and Beam, what is the best use case of Beam for me?
So it really depends on what you are after. So, just like with any other crypto projects, there are several different things that you can do. You can, I don't know, buy something and hold it in hope that it gets, rises in value. And yes, Beam is one of those options. The price is very low right now, so maybe it will go up, maybe not, I don't know, not a trading advice. If you are interested in DeFi and trading, then you can join the Beam, like kind of in the making of Beam ecosystem. And if you have experience in that, you can download our currently test wallet, like the DAppNet wallet, and provide feedback on the applications that we already have, or provide ideas for new ones that we don't have. So that's also an option. If you are into NFTs, we have a great NFT gallery and a lot of interesting collections. So if you're into mining, you can mine Beam using GPUs. If you are into atomic swaps, we have atomic swaps. We have asset exchange. You can create your own asset. You can create your own project or your own application. So in Beam, I think today you can do almost anything, like in terms of like anything there is out there in crypto can be done on Beam. So yeah, like if you have any ideas whatsoever, just contact me, contact us via any channel, Telegram, Twitter, whatever, and we will gladly help you, find something interesting to do with Beam if you really want to.
Yeah, I do agree. Beam is one project. It's one product that has multiple use cases. I mean, there's a whole lot you can do. It's not just trading. It's not just holding. I mean, there are bridges there. You can run your own bridge. You can use the DEX, and there's a hardware wallet for you to store your stuff. I mean, there's a whole lot to do with Beam, and it's a very profitable uh, product on its own. One more question from the community. Are there plans to list Beam on other sexes anytime soon?
Yeah, so the short answer is probably not, for two reasons. First of all, uh, most of the listings today cost money. So like it's not like in the days that new projects were listed for free, because everybody wants to eat after all, and centralized exchanges are no exception. And Beam does not have enough native liquidity or volume to be attractive for an exchange just to kind of generate fees from. So for now, I don't expect any additional listings. Certainly not on major exchanges. We are in negotiations with many of them, but once again, like I'm not sure it will happen in a short period of time. On the other hand, we are working and improving on all kinds of decentralized solutions, which once again, in the long term, I believe will be, I would say, even better in many regards than centralized exchanges. Because don't forget, centralized exchanges require KYC and they know everything about you. And it's not exactly your tokens because they're not controlled by your keys. And if it's not your keys, it's not your fund. So yeah, like, I mean, the short answer is no for CX as of now. And we are trying to build something that will make you be able to trade anything you want on decentralized exchanges.
Cool, cool. Okay, it's just 4 minutes past time, but I'll just take one more question from the community.
No problem.
It appears that they are mostly shy to speak. Yeah, I'm going to read it out. This one says, transactions validated in the order received on the network. Don't know if you can answer that.
What are the transactions? Well, I'm not sure I 100% understand the question. I think
Yeah.
it would be better to ask it in Telegram anywhere, either on Beam Africa channel or Beam Community channel. I think I understand it, but I'm not 100% sure, so I don't want to just say something incorrect. Yeah, but it sounds like a question that's better asked and answered in typing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. So we've got some questions that are a bit more towards the trading and order book aspects. Okay, yeah, I'm going to take this one. Does the DEX have means to prevent slippage?
Well, not prevent slippage, that is not possible, but there are some interesting aspects. Like there are some interesting differences in how DEX is implemented in Beam compared to, let's say, Ethereum, right? So first of all, as you know, in Beam, in order to construct a transaction, you need to match all of the precise numbers, right? So you have to tell, like, because it's, it's because of how Mimblewimble is implemented, you need to exactly balance the inputs, the outputs, the kernels, everything should be in exact kind of match, which means that you cannot just send a transaction which say, like, yeah, I want to spend approximately this number of Beam and approximately this number of things, right? So it all has to be precise. And that's why the slippage should be kind of implemented explicitly in Beam, right? The tolerance for slippage is implemented inside the application. So what this means is two things. First of all, the mechanism of high frequency transactions that I have described, it can actually allow like to you to control exactly the slippage that you want. So it will not exceed your parameters. And as of now, it's in the current implementation that you see on DAppNet, it's not controlled through the application. So there is some small default there, but it is something that we will add either in the first version before it goes live or in the second version immediately after, the ability to control the slippage. Yeah, so and obviously you can also react to it in almost real time. So even before the block is mined, you can make some adjustments to your settings of your transaction. So yeah, so there is slippage. It's implemented differently than Ethereum, and it can be controlled by the DApp using the high frequency transactions. That's the answer.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks very much for your patience, understanding so far. We've come a long way and
Oh yeah,
also comes to the end of the space. If anyone has any further questions, feel free to drop them in the Telegram channels and they will be responded to as soon as possible.
yeah.
Thanks, Alex. Do
Uh,
you have anything last? Yeah.
no, I just wanted to say that I'm like really glad to be here, and you know, really, if anyone has any questions for anything, right, in general regarding Beam or other things, you're more than welcome to join the Beam Africa community, which is absolutely amazing. General Beam community, or just write to me directly. I'm always here, always happy to answer questions about Beam anytime. And it's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alex. Thanks, Gus. See you next week on
Yep.
another space. Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Bye.